what's your reaction to the book and to the reaction to the book?
Well, my reaction to the book is I thought it was a fascinating book. There's a lot of great data. People may not be familiar with Piketty's prior history. He made a reputation, along with one of his main co-authors, Emmanuel Saez, for mining the tax data in the United States. If this seems obvious to people, like why didn't people use the tax data, it's hard to do. You can't. It's available to the public, but it takes a long time. We can't just go down to the IRS and say, give us the tax files. You have to go through a long clearance process. Takes quite some time, but then you have a massive amount of data. The reason why this is important is that this is actual data on particular individuals. So we know how much, and I don't know whether he has Bill Gates, he could figure out who he is from, the names are blocked out. But the point is we could figure out exactly how much money different people are getting. Most of our other data sets are surveys, and they're generally top-coded. So that means we have Bill Gates there who might get, I don't know his income, we'll say $1 billion a year. And then we have someone else who's a successful lawyer, gets $400,000 or $500,000. All we see is top code, and meaning that puts down. It says top code, or it won't say top code, but it'll say give some code 6666, and we can't tell that Bill Gates had $1 billion a year in income and the lawyer had 400,000. We just know that both of them are over the top code, which is something like 400,000. Depends on the survey.
And just to jump in for a second, I think there's an important policy aspect to that too, as well as an analytical aspect, which is, if my understanding is correct, and you'll let me know, the reason why they are classified as quote-unquote top code is because the person earning 400,000 and the person earning $1 billion are both in the top tax bracket, so they're taxed at the same rate. Is that correct?
Well, no, they're not top code for the tax purposes. We have a variety of surveys. When you get the unemployment numbers every month, that's a survey. There's another survey that the Federal Reserve Board conducts on wealth. There's a whole set of surveys that various agencies conduct, and those are the ones I'm referring to as being top coded. On the taxes, they're not top coded, but we don't have that. This is exactly what Piketty did. He arranged with the IRS that he would have access to the actual files. Again, he's not getting Bill Gates' tax return, but he's getting the information from Bill Gates' tax return. And
so he's getting the figures.
That's right. Yeah. So that means.
Yes. Okay.
So the point here is he could figure out what's actually happening in that top 1% or so. If I'm using the survey data that's publicly available, all I could see is, okay, we had 1 million people or whatever that were in this top code, and we don't know how much money they got. Now, what Piketty did with that was he was able to see, look at this. When we talk about the top 1%, they've really pulled away. So they had much more income there than we had realized, and particularly the top 10th of 1% or even the top 100th of 1%, there's been a really great divergence with those at the very, very top making out like bandits. So that was his contribution before this book. Now, when he did this book, he goes back and he compiles data on wealth for the United States, dating back in some cases to the pre-Revolutionary War period. He goes to 18th century France. So it's an exhaustive account that brings up to date, our understanding of wealth and income patterns, for the last 2 centuries in much of the world. So in that sense, it's a very, very useful book. Now, what's gotten the most controversy is he's saying, okay, going forward, what should we expect? And his argument is that, if we expect the future to be like the past, then we'll see a further concentration of income. So he tells this story that we saw an unusual period in the middle of the 20th century across the United States and much of Western Europe, where we saw income becoming less concentrated, but we should expect it to again become concentrated as we get through the rest of the century. It's called, the volume called Capital for the 21st Century. So his expectation there is that we'll see greater concentration. And, it's kind of a bleak picture in that respect. And he says, what can we do about that? And he suggests having some sort of wealth tax that, will tax the wealth of these very high income, very wealthy people.